Well, I brought my Archie orange umbrella because I heard that this is going to be live streamed on some sites, so people who did not get out their umbrellas will be watching it from home. But I have to commend all of you who attended today because you saw the Tuckahoe Library as your umbrella. So I thank you for coming. And I show you the orange because I say my face belongs to Archie Comics. Archie has that kind of orange hair, and I say my face belongs to Archie Comics. I am the co-CEO of the company, and I was a school teacher just 4 years ago. I stepped out of the classroom and into the boardroom due to the fact that my husband had passed away. And Archie Comics has always been a privately held company, and it's been run by the same families for 70 years. So when both partners passed away within 7 months of one another, the company was running without any leadership. And people had felt that, I should sell. But I said no. A year later, I was given the opportunity to come in as a co-CEO. So I said I stepped out of the classroom and into the boardroom. So what happens when you bring someone who has a teaching background into a business? Well, I guess I can't take the teacher out of me because I enjoy going around speaking in schools and libraries and just speaking to people in general because I find that Archie Comics has a lot to say. I say when Archie speaks, people listen. So I have a new story coming out, and I'm encouraging everyone to want to buy this story. It comes out in August. And the reason I highlight it, there's a very special story in it. It highlights how the country of Rwanda has been very successful in refusing plastic bags. How can a country do that? So when I heard that, I said I have to let our people know around, not the United States, but around the globe, how one country was able to do something which will environmentally make an impact on planet Earth. So I say when Archie Comics speaks, people listen, even with a football in his mouth. So I want to take that football and pass it around the globe so people can read the story and be inspired to reduce their use of plastic like Rwanda has done. So I'm here representing Archie Comics, and I would like you to understand how comic books are made. Because when I went into the company, I started seeing all these separate jobs I never thought about. And I'd like you to understand all the jobs because you can apply that to anything. So it's kind of a career awareness today. So starting with comic books, you have to have an editor. And there is usually one editor to a company, so it's a very sought-after job. It's the editor who has the ideas and kind of guides their freelance writers and artists as to what the next comic book is going to look like. So if you're going to apply that career to other companies, there's always kind of one leader who kind of orchestrates what's going on at the company. So the chairs you're sitting in, I am sure there is one leader there that could also resemble an editor in a comic book company. So after you have the editor kind of orchestrating, what's going to happen, then you have the writer. Now, in this case, like the wedding story, Archie's wedding story, it wasn't that the editor came up with the idea. He got a call from the freelance writer. His name was Mike Uslan. And he called up our editor and he said, I want to do a story on Archie getting married. And you know what our editor said? He said no. Why would he say no to that? Why would he say no to Archie Andrews getting married? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Yes.
Because there wouldn't be much material left.
That's brilliant. There wouldn't be much more material left. What is another reason why the editor flatly said no to Archie getting married?
It's a fight between the two ladies.
Right, a fight between the two ladies. How old are they?
Oh, yeah, they're like 10.
Excuse me?
What? Oh, nothing.
Very
They're
young.
teenagers.
Yeah.
Can teenagers get married?
With parents' permission.
With a parent, yes. If a parent was to say yes. So our editor simply said no. Well, Mike Uslan, again, he called up and he said to the editor, please, I have this great idea where Archie is going to marry Betty and then he's going to marry Veronica. Editor said, what? No. And Mike Uslan, he continued to call, and the editor finally started doing, where's my thinking bubble? Started thinking. And he did say yes. It was one of our very popular stories, and the world went crazy. Everybody was going, yes, Archie is going to get married. And then later, another comic book came out where the first one came out where he was marrying Betty. Then another one came out where he's marrying Veronica. People didn't read the small print. This was going to be a story. What would life be like for Archie if he was going to marry Betty or Veronica? It was almost a Robert Frost twist. If he took that road, it would bring him that way. If he took the other road, it would bring him another way. So when you're developing stories, it's not always from the editor. It could also be from the writer, and we thank Mike Uslan for coming up with that fabulous idea. The second part of creating a comic book is the penciler. The penciler is the one who brings the, where did that one go? Oh, I didn't bring it. So you have the writing, but the penciler will bring a, oh, here it, no, it almost looks like this. Will bring the story to life with drawing. Now, after the penciler comes the inker, but this job is becoming extinct. You know why? What could be replacing the inker's job? Yes?
I don't think you put it into like a computer or like a...
You said the word, a computer. So technology is starting to eliminate some jobs in the publishing world by putting in computers. So when you have the penciler where it's like this, it's the penciler's job to bring those words to life. And I have seen some penciling that has come across my desk without the words, and I can read the story. It's like amazing when you have the penciler, the artist, taking the words that were submitted and bringing that word to life. You get so much more energy out of just a visual image. It adds so much more depth to the word. So now that the penciler sends it on to the inker, the penciler is not so happy anymore that there's going to be a machine taking this person's job. You know why? What could happen with the penciler on his end? He's doing his artwork, and then it's going to a machine. He has to be a lot more careful with his line because he will just kind of randomly sketch it out quickly. Now he has to be a little bit more careful so the computer understands what lines to pick up. Before, when it was the inker, he could decide, what line he was going to choose to make it, thicker or thinner. So a lot more thought goes on in it, but it puts a lot more pressure on the penciler's job. So after you have the editor, there's a career, the freelance writer's another career, the penciler's another career, and then the inker's another career. The inker is making space for the words, making words, space for the words that were written by the writer. And those are done in speech bubbles. How many people here know about these speech bubbles? When I came into Archie, I just knew about the one speech bubble. Does anybody know what these speech bubbles identify?
Thoughts?
This one is for the thoughts. So imagine, if you want to bring your writing to life, utilize what the people in graphics and comic books utilize, the speech bubbles. So you can add feeling to your pages by letting your reader understand how that word is going on. So you could have a page with all of the thought bubbles, so there's a lot of deep thinking going on in that page. Now, if you were going to have the page be very quiet, what bubble would you point to? It's up here. It's called our whisper bubble. The whisper bubble has a lot of broken lines, and that identifies quietness. So if you want your page to be very quiet, you can give that feeling in your writing by utilizing that speech bubble. So, you could use words, but if you don't identify how the word is being used, the reader wouldn't know. So I see writing in graphic novel style powerful because you have all these tools to add feeling to what you're writing. Now, if you want to make your page loud and noisy, what bubble would you use? Everybody point to it. That one. That is a great bubble to utilize the onomatopoeia words. The onomatopoeia words, can anybody give me some? Yes.
It's like bang, pop.
Yep. Bang, pop, zam, wham, wow. Now, if you're going to utilize the onomatopoeia words that give life to sounds, could you imagine just having pop? It'd just be pop. But if you put it in a speech bubble where it looks like it's really gonna pop, that will add more feeling to it. Also utilizing how you draw those onomatopoeia words. Think about it. Use your artistic ability by making some of the lines thick or thin. If something was going to be shaky and scary, you can make that line shaky and scary. Add life to what you are writing with by utilizing this genre of literacy, graphic novels and comic books. Now, if you just wanted to talk, you have your regular speech bubble. But laying out comic books, I brought this just to show you comic books do not have to always exist in these types of horizontal panels. You can make it any way you want. You could have a circle because your artwork, your picture, you want to give it space. So this one could utilize having a tall building in it. So don't think in terms, if you're going to write in graphic novel style, that you just have to have square boxes. You can do whatever you want. So getting back to the careers, we have the editor, which I couldn't bring with me because he's busy at work, but an example of the writer, then the penciler, the inker, and then the letterer, putting the lettering in. And then the last career is the, what do you call it? The coloring, the colorist. Now, I didn't put in that, I didn't color in the whole panel on that because I wanted to identify IP. Anybody know what IP is? Those two letters? It's called intellectual, from your head, property. You own it. It's your thoughts and it's your property. Intellectual property. Can you say that? Everybody, intellectual property. Intellectual property. So when you go home to dinner tonight and at the kitchen table, you can talk about IP, and I am sure everyone at the table is not going to know what you're talking about, and you're going to say intellectual property. So the intellectual property here that I wanted to show you was that Archie orange hair. Now, anyone can draw hair that, I say it looks like a mountain. If you were to draw Archie, everyone wants to know how to draw people. Archie Comics is the best example of actual human features and proportion that I have ever seen. So if you want to practice how to draw people, always grab an Archie Comics and it will show that. But the lines for Archie's hair, look at it, it's like a mountain. So anybody can draw hair like that. Anybody can color in the hair orange. But what the artist did here, he put in cross-hatching. And it almost looks like a tic-tac-toe board. Now, I wish he was here. And he has long deceased, the first person who did the likeness of Archie. And I am sure he put in that cross-hatching to show ownership because it was a little different. So how many of you are always drawing a character that's always the same? It's either a person or an animal. How many of you here are always doing a doodle that's always the same? Anybody? You again? Yeah. What do you draw, animal or person? Okay, so it always looks the same. It's coming from your intellect and it's your property. But be consistent. Never change it. Be consistent. But to show that it's your property, put a little something on it. Doesn't matter. Jughead here, he has a gray crown. Now that crown, anybody could wear. Anybody could wear a gray crown. But look what they did. They put a rectangle and a circle, and they made the circle red and the rectangle white. It's always that way. It's always consistent. Now, for 70 years, Jughead's been wearing that. You have to, if you want to make strong intellectual property, you have to have people identify your character, and you just do something a little different that makes sure that it shows your ownership. Now, I have seen Jughead without his crown a few times, but that only happens once you've built strong intellectual property. Also, Jughead's always wearing an S. I have no idea what the S is for, but you know what I say? It's for Silberkleit, because Archie Comics was run by two families, the Goldwaters and the Silberkleits. I have no idea why Jughead has an S on his shirt, so I just say it represents the Silberkleits. And you know what the Goldwaters say? Oh, it just represents the word super. So who knows? But you can be as free as you want when you are drawing your characters, people or animals, but be consistent and add a little squiggly line, but make sure it's always in the same place and make sure it's always the same. So that is for career awareness, that you should think about other careers. We all know there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's librarians, there's teachers, but there are so many other jobs behind the whole picture. So when you look at a comic book where these panels represent this, you just take your comic book, you read it, you enjoy it, but you never thought how many people went into creating this. And after the initial book has all these pages, then it takes another job, a proofreader. It takes a person who puts in our ads. It puts in a person that designs our order sheets. We have many order sheets in a comic book that you can order other comic books, and that is one person's responsibility to do that. Then we have other people, distributors, printers. I did a documentary on the printing of a comic book, and the jobs at a printing company are enormous, many, many, many jobs. So there's a lot of careers that go into making a comic book. And I'll just stop for a second. Anybody have any questions for me that you wanted to ask about Archie? Yes?
Like, where would you usually order the comics? Like, they're kind of...
Okay, well, our comics are distributed at bookstores. They're at kiosks. They're at the airport. I always find them. They're at the train station. But you can go online. Archie has its own app, and you can download your own app using your iPad or other devices that you all carry around with you. And then you can always go to a comic book and pull out an ad and order it that way and get a subscription. Or you can go to www.archiecomics.com and you'll see subscriptions. But for my people here and for my fans who are going to watch me out there, you can contact me at accidentalboss@AOL. That is an email of mine, and I love when people say, I just scanned this, order form. Could you sign the book for me? And I will, sign the book and then give the order form to the people who work in our office to get the books for you. So if you like to do it that way, that's another option. But you can go to www.archiecomics.com and you can order your comic books online. So that's where you get them. So something else I wanted to share, that when I came into Archie, I didn't realize that, this is what I was, thinking about. But at the dinner table, years and years ago, I said to my husband, Archie Comics needs its own stamp. The U.S. Post Office should embrace the iconic brand and have a stamp. So that was about all I remember. And shortly after my husband passed away, I think it was maybe 4 days after, we got this wonderful letter from the United States Post Office that they decided to commemorate Archie, and they did a stamp. So I was so proud that he had listened to me, but I never knew that he had gotten in touch with them. So I was so thrilled, and I felt so sad that I could not share that with my husband. I said to our editor, can we do a story letting our readers know that there is going to be a stamp that's going to come out and commemorate our wonderful characters. So he did this story. He did this, I think it was a 4-page story. And I thought, wow, how powerful for young people and older people who read these to learn that the United States Post Office will have a stamp. People are collectors. People are collectors of comic books, they're collectors of stamps. So I was able to do something I call a PSA. Anybody know what a PSA is? No? What's an IP? What's the IP? Intellectual property. Intellect, and it's yours, it's your property. So IP, intellectual property, PSA. Once I did this, I was giving a message. It's called a public. I wanted lots of people to know about the stamp, and I wanted them to know it was a service. So PSA, public service announcement. Can I hear you all say public service announcement? Public service announcement. How about we say it like it was in the loud speech bubble? Public service announcement. Great, so everyone is going to hear that. So when I did that, I had met another CEO. And this was a female CEO from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And I saw that this was the first time MAD had hired a female CEO. And I said, oh, somebody like me, because remember, this was all new for me. And I contacted her, and I congratulated her. Within seconds, she emails me back. She was a big Archie fan, and she wanted to meet me. She goes, can you call me? I said, oh, sure. So, I called her, had a wonderful conversation, and she told me she was coming to New York City to talk about something new that Mothers Against Drunk Driving were launching. So she came, we had a wonderful lunch, and she told me she was going to ask the NFL if they could stand behind Mothers of Drunk Driving and announce their new project. It was called Power of the Parents. And I said, well, if that happens, I could put an NFL player in our Archie comic store, because Archie, he loves playing football. And that's what happened. They partnered with Jason Witten from the Dallas Cowboys, and I was able to get out MAD's message about Power to the Parents. Power to the Parents is a program that on April 21st, they want families sitting down talking about underage drinking, that you do not drive until it's proper age in your state. So I all hope, even though we are at July 1st, you will believe that this is April 21st, and you'll go home with my message and talk about that today. So I was proud that I could put that in here, because I was doing a PSA. And what's a PSA? Then I went on, again, feeling pretty proud of myself, saying, wow, this is another way I can get a message out. This is when I started realizing that not only was I a co-CEO, that I was still a teacher. And I say every CEO comes with a different slant. Mine is education. So my comfortable way of identifying myself is that I say I am one of the teachers of Riverdale High, with Mr. Weatherby as my principal, because I won't take my teaching hat off. And I'm delighted today that you're all here listening to this. So I had met another group about reducing our use of plastic, refusing plastic. And I didn't realize that in the South Pacific, there is almost an island of plastic piling up. The way the currents are turning it and gathering it and gathering it, it's just building up with plastic, because plastic will not go away. I was not aware of this. Any of you know about that, cluster of plastic in the South Pacific? Have you heard about it? Well, it's troublesome that beautiful waters have plastic. So when I start walking past water now, and I'm sure I'm going to do it to you too, I start seeing plastic. It does not disintegrate. So we have to start trying to use less plastic. So this was called Bottle Battle. And when I had heard that Rwanda had successfully gotten rid of plastic bags, I had to go there and tell them that I was coming out with a story that would highlight that, where I will take that football in Archie's mouth and I will throw it to them to ask them to make a touchdown in their country to help refuse plastic in some way. Yes?
How did Archie get full?
In his mouth?
Yeah.
I know, that's what I had asked. But you know, we are an entertainment company. So my answer to that is when Archie speaks, people listen, even with a football in his mouth. So I thought that would make people laugh. I have no idea, but it was the artist's creativity, and fortunate it works for me because, as I said, I am taking that PSA about reducing and refusing plastic, and this is not just for our community. This is a global message. So how cool is it that I can take that football and pass it around the globe for people to take a look at Rwanda did? So I thank you all, and I also brought this one panel out of Archie Comics. It has a plethora of ways to prepare potatoes. Many words that are used in comic books you will find on the SATs. Reading comic books is serious business. At one time, comic books were frowned upon. This is the era for comic books, for graphic novels, because you will find memoirs, history books, and you will find these books shelved in your library. When you are done, I hope you go find your graphic section, and you will see all types of books done on this type of platform. But I brought that one because it has a wonderful American word called plethora. Can you figure out what the word plethora means? Yes.
It means a lot.
A lot. And just looking at that cookbook, we're going to find out a plethora of ways of preparing potatoes. So I thank you all for listening, but I would be delighted if you had some questions for me, because that's my favorite time, is to answer the questions from the audience. Would you like to know how long it takes to make a comic book? Well, I came out with my own foundation, but before I did that, I wanted to do more PSAs. And I do not have the freedom to do that with our characters because our characters have such strong IP. What does IP mean? So for me to take Jughead and say I want to do a comic book on obesity surely wouldn't work, because he's not going to eat the spinach that I recommend. Kale. Kale is a good thing to eat. So I called up Boston's Children's Hospital and I said, I know that they believe in getting out information in comic book format. So we put together a team, and they said they were going to do it. And they were able to raise the money for this project, and we started it in December of, not this past December, December 2011. Shortly after that, within a month's time of starting this, I started reading and seeing more articles on unacceptable behavior in our schools, on our playgrounds, in our bus, on the internet. What unacceptable behavior am I talking about? Bullying. I was tremendously bothered because I had seen a child in Canada, age 12, had made a very wrong decision to take his life. Wrong decision. Remember, that is a wrong decision. And I called up Boston's Children's Hospital, and I said, we have to do another comic book. Read this article. And they said, yes, it's horrible, but we can't do it right now. We're just starting the obesity one for you, Nancy. We will get to it. So when I put the phone down in my office, I said, Nancy, what are you thinking? You are a publisher. You can do this. So I immediately at that moment started calling a writer, a penciler, an inker, a letterer. I said, I have an idea for our young people. I want our young people to know, never let anyone define who they want you to be. Can you imagine someone telling you what you can do and what you can't do? Just think about it. When you have someone like this person, this one malevolent person with their hand up, defining what they want for you in life, they're going to tell you who you are, what you can do, what you can't do. They are not going to give up. They are relentless. I have been bullied. I have experienced that. And a light bulb went on in my head. I know who I am. And I am not going to let anybody take that away from me. And if anything, I am going to work harder to do what my dreams are, what belongs to me. I'm never going to let anybody take that away from me. So I am going to forge ahead, and I'm going to get interested in what I do well. I'm a teacher, and I love doing that. So I wanted to do this book. So when I called up all these people, that's exactly what I said. That message has to be in this book. I want this to be a book that is going to give people the power to believe in themselves and forge ahead and get out of that person's box. I don't want anybody in here thinking you're going to be able to change that person. You can't. They are so cruel. They are so mean. They have no use for what your dreams are. They want to take them away from you, and you are not going to let them take it away from you. So I did this book, What One Can Do When Bullied. And I wanted to make sure people were going to read it. So I asked Reggie Jackson how he felt about bullying. And he was very proud that I was going to do this project. So he gave me a picture of him in his Yankee uniform. That was an honor for me. He gave it to me. I was so thrilled. And his comment was, bullying hurts and is never cool. Go to bat for a friend with kindness and encouragement and support. Reggie Jackson. So I bought enough of these for all of you, and I will hand them out to you. And if you would like me to come to your schools and speak about this, it would be my honor. I would be delightful to do it. I do it for free, and I can give you these books for free. So, and if you ever want to have Archie comics in your school, I bring Archie comics into schools, and you can have a fair, and you can raise money for your school by giving the gift of literacy. Because I say Archie Comics is an iconic company with the wonderful stories that they have shared over 70 years that get people reading. So you could be my ambassadors to comics in the classroom. Okay, so thank you. So I left the comic books in the car. I'm going to go grab them, and I'll give everybody one. And then maybe when I come back, you'll want to ask me a question. Gentle Boss at AOL, and this comic book comes out in August. I think it's $3.99. And then I have the subscription page. If anyone is interested in an Archie subscription, I'm sure the library could make some extra copies, and you can take them home and overlook and see what you want to order. Thank you.